Today I'm here with Coach Michael. He is our linebackers coach. And yeah, we just came from the tryout. So how was the tryout for your position group today?
Well, I think we had a pretty good tryout because the outcome of the guys that come out is pretty good, because I like it when you have like guys competing. And personally, for me, I think even with the cold weather, I think that the guys did pretty well. So I'm pretty, how can I say it, not excited what we're trying to build, but I'm okay with everything we did so far for today. So besides the weather could be better, but it's still nice.
It was snowing.
Yes.
Okay, so Coach Michael, what led you to become a football player for the Böblingen Bears in 2008?
That's a good question, because actually my first love, sports-wise, is basketball.
Okay.
And I was always a huge American football fan, right? But I was never really thinking about playing American football. So I was always into basketball, doing all these things, you know, because back in the days, of course, you had football around here in Stuttgart, but it was not that much, not as many that it is right now. So at one point, I was tired of just running on the basketball court, right? So I actually watched the Super Bowl in 2007 or 8. I think it was 2008 with the Giants. And after that, I was like, man, why don't you start playing, you know? So I was trying to look for teams in the area, went online, which probably all the guys do. Like, they mostly go on the social media pages and online. And I found Böblingen, but I was not sure if I want to go there, because I was like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough or something like that. So after a while, at the gym that I went to, there were some guys that played like a kind of street football on a beach soccer field. And I was like, okay, let me check that one out first. So I went there, and after, I think the second or the third weekend, we had two guys coming who also played for the Böblingen Bears. So I was like, hey, you guys playing for the Bears? That's actually a team I was interested in, right? So they were like, so what are you doing out here? Why don't you come with us and try out? So I was like, okay, let's do that. So I went, I liked it, I fell in love with football, and I'm with football ever since. I think there's no day in my life since that day that I started with Böblingen that I don't have anything to do with football. It's actually really 365, 24/7, definitely.
That's a really nice story. Thank you for sharing. So how did you get into the US national team 4 years later?
That's also because of Böblingen, because if you think about Böblingen itself, it has like the surrounding bases, and especially Panzer, which is the base where probably after Patch in Stuttgart-Feingen, where they have the most Americans. And on the team, we actually had like, let me think, 3, 4, or 5 coaches on the staff that also went to the military and spent their time on the base in Böblingen. So we had one coach over there who was like in contact with Team USA when they were trying to do their things. And when they came over, he was part of their coaching staff, right? So he asked me, he was like, hey, Mike, you know, you're the right guy, you're into football all the time, why don't you come out and work with us? So I was like, of course, I want to do that, definitely. And then bonded a friendship like the guys there. I'm still in contact with some of the guys from back then, and I can say it was one of the greatest experiences that I ever had, because I mean, when do you get the chance to play and coach, definitely, or be on a staff with people that come from the States and come to Europe to play American football on the highest level, let's say that, of course.
So, Mike, why did you decide to stop your career as a player and become a coach?
It's actually a sad story somehow, but not really. It's not really sad because I didn't stop doing football. But when I was in Böblingen, I was actually one of the first players that went out there when the program started. So when you join a program and you start the vision of having something big, and you start in the lower leagues and you want to come up and spend all those years trying and trying and trying, right? At one point, you reach a level of play in a lot of games where you, I wouldn't say have records or something, but you get to a place where a lot of people that come in or that new with the program really see you as a veteran player. So in 2017 was the last year I played where I tore my ACL in a game. So in that year, I was actually supposed to play my 100th season game, like the 100th game, but I played more in totally with like the playoff games and everything else. But like a real season game, it should have been the 100th game. So unfortunately, that didn't happen, right? So when I got hurt, I was like, okay, I can't go out like that because no player wants to leave the game, right, with an injury. So I went, did the surgery, got the physio and everything. So now the funny part is I was thinking like, okay, should I come back? Should I try again? You know, and I really wanted to do that, right? So while I was doing that, unfortunately, Böblingen or the team itself had problems with the city of Böblingen, and the team eventually folded.
Oh, okay.
So I never got to play my 100th game for the for the team, right? So when I was at the physio, the guy who was working at the physio was then the new head coach of the Stuttgart Scorpions. And he was like, so what are you gonna do? And I was like, well, I'm trying to go back and play. So he's like, okay, you wanna go back and play with Böblingen or you wanna go play with Stuttgart? So what's the deal? Because coach is always looking for players, obviously. And I was like, well, now I'm too old. I maybe have one more year. I want to spend that with the club that I started out with, where I had the goal or the dream of bringing it all the way up to the first league and everything. And then when the team folded, I was still with him, still working. I was like, hey, the team folded, so now I'm actually kind of free. So he was like, okay, what you want to do? Do you want to come coach or do you want to come play? And I was like, well, you know what? Since my cousin is there, who was already working with the defensive staff for Stuttgart, I was like, hey, you know what? I should go into coaching. You know, I played for such a long time, 10 years. Like everybody that knows me well, they know Mike is all about football. I gave everything to football. Like best example is my family. I had at one point, I wouldn't say I had football first, but my family knew I had football first, right? For me, I had family first, but they knew, like example, my mother's birthday, for example.
Yeah.
She would tell me, you go to practice.
Yeah.
Go to practice, do your thing, then come back. You can still be at my birthday, you know? Where other people would be like, okay, I can't come to practice because my mother has a birthday. With me, it was different. But everything I wanted to do in football, I did everything, I saw everything, you know, and I was okay with stepping away from the game because I think the 10 years that I spent or more with the program, I spend it in a way where I can say if one day I sit on the front porch, right, in a chair and I look back at my time playing football, I don't have any regrets, you know. And that's why I finally made the step and we're like, okay, let's give back to these young guys and get into coaching, definitely.
That's awesome. Like the part you just said with sitting there and say, yeah. I wouldn't, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest coaching points. When I coach the guys, I always tell them, you have to approach this game in a way that one day when you're old and you look back, you have to say, I did it right. Because you can never go back, and that's what you have to realize. You don't want to ever have that feeling of sitting there and thinking, man, I should go back. You were 20 back then, you're 60 something now, right? The chance is gone. So always keep that in mind. And it goes with life and everything. It's more like a life lesson than it is football.
It is.
But I use it in football as I use it in life. So I really like that. Yeah.
You started coaching in 2017 for the Stuttgart Scorpions, right? Is there a difference in coaching search now?
Actually, I started coaching earlier because 17, if you think about, 17, if you think about, is when I went into coaching like for real.
Oh, okay.
Because before that, I was actually working with junior programs.
Okay.
In Böblingen. So I was playing, but at the same time, I was coaching the junior program. And then in the team itself, I was working with the linebacker crew as like a player's coach. Because in some teams you have that. You have like a player with more experience that's taking care of a player group. So after playing with Böblingen and obviously coaching and everything, it's pretty funny because I had someone from my family, which was my cousin, who was in Stuttgart with the Scorpions, and he always told me I should come out, right? So at one point he got me, and then I was like, okay, I have to do it, you know. But I still, to this day, I don't regret it. It's a great program, you know. I love the city of Stuttgart. Everything that has to do with football, I'm all for it, definitely.
What vision do you have for your linebackers next season?
Ooh. I think definitely from what I feel is that I think we can be the best linebacker squad in the ELF, because I think we have the guys and we have the mindset to be that. And one of my big goals for next season is that I want to have the best linebacker squad, definitely. Because, how do I say that? The position itself, if you think about, I always say that for myself. I say we the best position on the football field. Everybody knows that. They always laugh, right? But if we say we the best position on the football field, that also means we have to be the best group overall. And I think the linebacking crew, especially in our defense, is so important that with whatever we do, it kind of decides where our defense is drifting during the game and during the season. That's why my goal for next year is definitely to have the best squad in the ELF.
Yeah, Coach Mike, thank you for your time. And yeah, we wish you all the best in coaching. And thank you.
Thank you.